Well, hello, it is Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature. And I, first of all, just want to thank all of you that filled in the survey for me. I really, really appreciate your feedback because I've got something really exciting that I'm going to be sharing with you in a couple of weeks. But part of it actually is prompted by this conversation, looking at the results of why is it that we say we want to do something and we put all our intention, all our willpower into doing that to achieve the results that we know we want, and then we fall off the wagon, we self-sabotage. And what this has to do with your style of attachment, and really two things that are driving you to not do what you say you're going to do. And stay with me till the end, because I'm going to give you 6 ways that you can actually start to change that, so that you actually do get the success and the results you want, to feel good and create a beautiful life. So what I want to say about this is to have some compassion, to be kind to yourself, because one of the biggest difficulties of trauma, and we're all traumatized in one way, shape, or form, just being born into this world, coming out of this beautiful, safe, watery cocoon into the harsh realities of this life in human form. We're often left confused and disoriented and feeling lost and uncertain of which direction we want to go. And a lot of the times we don't even know what we want. And worst, I think, of all is that we don't feel comfortable in our own skins. We don't have a mind of our own, and we certainly don't listen to what our hearts are calling us into doing. And maybe you've had some of those experiences as well, of just feeling overwhelmed, or like, what's the point? Nothing ever changes, or whatever your dialogue is of those inner saboteur voices that are so deeply ingrained in us. Because most people who are dealing with some level of stress or anxiety or trauma or challenges in our relationships and the underlying attachment issues, want to make sense of what's going on. We want to understand. A lot of you said you don't know why things haven't worked out, or that you should be further along by now, and that you're tired of struggling. You want to stop feeling bad about yourself. You want to be optimistic. You want to be excited about life, but no matter what you do, you slip back into those old patterns of feeling anxious or depressed. And we don't know how to calm our bodies down. We don't know how to relax. We don't even know how to be deeply happy anymore, or feel safe in our own skins, or in our environments, our external environments. And everyone that is here, that's part of my tribe, you've already done so much to get you to this point. And you might be feeling a little disorganized, or a little shut down into even being present with me here, listening to what I have to share with you right now, because you've given up, you're feeling confused, or you're too overwhelmed, or you're too tired to even stay present right now. And for many of us, this kind of disorientation continues to happen in every way, shape, or form, in every area of our life, until we can learn how to make sense of it, right? To sort out all these intricate, moving, fragile pieces of our inner world, our inner psyche. And does it make sense that if the thing is, what we want is often derailed by our old belief systems. We all know that. But what we don't often get taught, and I think this should be in every school out there, is that our childhood experiences shape our world. So if we grew up in a home that wasn't safe, right, where there wasn't leadership, where there wasn't an example of what a loving, kind, expansive relationship can look like, that we're gonna just model what we saw. And I call it the internal protest, right? Where all our little parts and pieces, our childhood, our child parts, right? I don't believe there's an inner child. I believe that there are fragmented parts and pieces of us at the age that we were when we decided that the world wasn't safe. And it's that voice that derails anything that you've set your mind to do. Because maybe you're the scared, anxious type that's always constantly worrying that money is going to go away, or the people that you love are going to go away, or that you can never feel safe because everything in your childhood went away. You know, maybe you lost your home, or you moved 10 times growing up. I've had clients that have said they've lived in 15 to 20 homes before they reached the age of 16. And, you know, I had an alcoholic father myself. So I learned my attachment style is very disorganized and also quite ambivalent underneath it, because you didn't know when there was going to be an explosion, right? I never knew when the next outburst was going to come from. And now that I know this work, I can have some compassion for myself, and in understanding that the reason why I chose two very narcissistic, abusive love relationships was because my body only knew what it experienced in that relationship with my father. So it's important to learn how to be with yourself where you are right now. And you don't have to have everything figured out. It's impossible to have it figured out, especially if you've had no experience of feeling, as I said, safely connected physically, and safety from the people that were supposed to keep you safe. So this is why no matter how much willpower you have, you can't meditate yourself into abundance. No amount of putting happy, beautiful pictures and mantras and memes up on your vision board is going to get you where you need to go, because you don't have the resources, right? You don't have the inner resourcing imprinted in your nervous system. And what stops that from actually happening, right? Why you can't do what you say you're going to do is, as I said, that if you were a child that had a very insecure attachment style, whether you were avoidant or disorganized or ambivalent or, whatever state you were in, somebody outside of you as a child was mirroring who you were, who you are, your identity. And this is how we develop a sense of self and who we are and how we move in the world, because it's in that implicit memory, right? It's imprinted through our attachment style, our coping mechanisms on how we interact with the world. So our task as an adult, hi Gloria and Carl, nice to see you here. I hope this is making sense. Lovely to have you here. So our responsibility, and I want to say responsibility as the adult self who knows better, is to get really curious on, where are these filters, so that we can clear them and start to experience life differently, right? To have a good life, to have a beautiful life. Because our past is always informing our actions in the present moment. So does it make sense that if you're numbing out, or you're shutting down, or you're avoiding pain, or you're getting anxious and worried about, what you're supposed to be doing in any given situation, and you've got all these stories to deal with the past experiences, that you have to begin to notice, how am I dealing, right? Not coping, but looking at the coping strategies that you've set up internally. so that you can see how you can start to clear them out and rewrite your story, right? Rewire your nervous system and put new strategies in place to come back online, to literally freeze yourself out like an ice block in a glass of water, so that you can start to thaw out and actually feel your body again. A lot of you said that you're feeling really numbed out. You don't know what to feel. You don't feel anything. And it's not easy work, you know, calming yourself, learning to sit in your own skin and not be reactive to what is triggering you. You know, that's like literally sending off danger, warning signs, telling you to run or fight or flee your entire life. And if you're 40 or 30 or 40 or 50, you've had a lifetime of visible proof that's kept you safe up until now. So, you know, again, compassion, patience, love is so important because it takes practice and it is possible. So your task is to become aware of why you may cognitively know that a lifestyle change or doing a daily ritual is going to help you to live a better life and to have more peace of mind, or to feel a sense of connection and safety, and not beat yourself up when you know, get derailed, because you know that it's time for a change and you're capable of doing that. You know that you're tired of suffering, you're tired of the hustle, you're tired of struggling, and then you don't do it, right? You don't go to bed earlier, or you don't drink enough water, just the basic things that help your body keep your mind clear and focused, and your body flexible and agile to move you through life, and to also know that fear is very healthy. If you're in a dangerous situation, you need that fear to be, you know, giving you that response on your body to get out of danger, but not to be using irrational fear, which again goes back to your childhood and how you were told to be afraid of everything rather than to be aware. So, you know, getting back to those sort of two reasons that I want to share with you today of why you don't do what you say you don't do. Maybe you never complete. I certainly can relate to that one with, you know, hundreds of unfinished books and projects and I never ever finish. Is having a disorganized attachment style is really, really good in entrepreneurship, because you know how to take risks. But it's not so good in helping you to create systems or the support that you need, because you don't know where you are. How is anybody else going to know where you're going with anything? So it's all about harmony. It's all about balance. And the first reason, as I said, is that all these old habits and coping skills that you created pre-7-year-old are still running your life. So when it's been your habit to go through, say, your morning, first thing you do, picking up your phone and looking at Facebook, you know, to see how many likes you've got because you're anxious and worried that people aren't going to like you because you said something, which is an attachment style. It's very difficult to change those old habits, but it is possible. But it takes those daily actions, right? It takes time to fire, you know, new fire and neurons fire and wire together. So they've been firing and wiring to do that over and over again. Those circuits, you know, those pathways in your brain run really, really deep. And we have to be in that constant state of mastery, of practice, of training, and not give up at the first challenge that comes your way, or beating yourself up because, you know, you did it once and it didn't work and you give up, right? Oh, fuck it, you know, I don't care, I don't give a shit. The ambivalent, avoidant types of attachments do that really, really well. And I remember we're moving between all of them all the time. So oftentimes we have a mix of all the attachment styles. But the other reason why we don't do what we say we're going to do, and I want you to really pay attention to this one, is that we don't believe that any of it's going to work. We have the history, we have the data to back that up. Why would, perfect example today, going to vote a couple of times, standing in the line, I thought, why am I wasting my time? Nothing in this country is ever going to change. It's a defeatist belief system, right? Based on visible proof that since Mandela died, this country's gone to the dogs, quite literally. There hasn't been any growth, and there hasn't been anything to prove otherwise. But what if we can turn it around and look at, okay, do I believe that me standing in a line for 2 hours and spoiling a vote would change something? Can I use my voice, small and mighty that it is, can I use my voice in a way that actually changes something? Even though I can't see it, it's still an action. It's not freeze, it's not procrastination. I'm still choosing to do something. And the power of choice is huge, but you have to have this basic foundation of understanding how you're wired first before anything can start to change, and you get to start to see the results showing up in your life. So, the belief part of this is huge. And in that last question that I asked on the survey, I said, what is it that you don't trust that things can change? And most of you said that you don't believe it. You don't believe it because your past history hasn't shown you anything else. And the part that shows up on your body when you start talking about why you believe things won't actually work, they're always trying to tell you how bad it is, how unsafe it is, how useless it is, how, when you did things in the past and you really, really believed in it, nothing on the outside changed to match that new reality. So you shrug your shoulders and you give up. And it comes back to the wiring of your nervous system, right? How you attached, which attachment style you used as a child to keep you safe. It's the fragmented child, right? That doesn't believe that she can trust, that she's strong enough to be herself, or that what she has to say matters. And she's never had the safety or the encouragement in a way that makes sense to her. And she's the one running your life. So there's always going to be a level of anxiety or depression or irritation or anger that shows up when you start to rewire and change your story. So, the predictability, the brain loves predictability, is there you go. I know that this is predictable, that I'm going to get irritated, that things aren't always going to go my way, that I'm not always going to get the visible proof, that whatever I'm putting my effort toward is changing. But the optimism doesn't go away, right? You don't let that pessimistic inner saboteur hijack your intention again. And if you really, really believed, truly, really believed in the benefits, say, of meditation as an aspect of your healing, would you do it every day? Would you waste another second not giving that to yourself? No. And there's plenty of visible proof as to the benefits of meditation. So you're not short of belief, just that there's a part of you that's still running, that's saying, not for me, works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. So I'm hoping that this is making sense to you, because if you just kind of sit with that for a little bit and you really, really be honest with yourself, and you start to look at, why don't you do the things that you should be doing? What's really going on underneath there? You're going to come to an emotion, right? A felt sense that gives a felt sense in your body. It gives you feedback. And I always say, ask why at least 5 times. Be the 3-year-old that never gives up asking why is the sky blue? Why are the cows lying down? Why am I cold? Why is the whatever the why is, and and keep going. And this is where it helps to have support, because you can't often get there. You can't access that level of vulnerability on your own, because vulnerability to your brain means death. So, stay with the why until you feel that expansion, that aha, oh, there it is. The lights go on, right? They're called blind spots for a reason, because you can't see them when you're in it. But, the brain is hardwired, right? The nervous system is hardwired to be a story-making machine. It wants predictability. It wants visible proof before it actually acts on something, because there's not safety in the unknown. So it's not your fault. It's just how we're hardwired, and it takes a lot of patience and love and support to get you to thaw out and change those belief systems. A perfect example of this is knowing that you won a multi-million-dollar lottery. You wouldn't sit there and believe, negate or distrust that it wasn't true, because your numbers showed you that you'd won the multi-million-dollar lottery, and that and if you had only 24 hours to claim it, you'd move the heaven and earth to make sure that you got there. You wouldn't be dithering around, second-guessing Google that the map is not going to take you there the fastest way. You wouldn't waste time, wondering and worrying about all the reasons and that you might not get there within that 24-hour time frame. You'd just do whatever you need to do to get there. And you wouldn't sit around there thinking about how your parents or your teachers criticized you or never believed you. That you could be a good money manager, because when you were 5, you lost the $5 that your dad gave you and your sister to go buy a box of popcorn, and you lost it, and you decided that you couldn't be trusted with money. You wouldn't go into the store of that. You just freaking go already. So there's a lot less to figure out than you think there is when you start to believe that you have everything that you need to get you what you wanted. This is where I think the connection part is so important, because you can't, as I said, you can't see it when you're in it. So if you are not believing, right, you're distrustful of something. This is why we need eyes on us, right? Because the mirror neurons in your eyes reflect the goodness and the trust and the love that you see in me that I can't see for myself. And I need you to have eyes on me when I'm sleeping, or if I'm too sick to do what I need to do today. I need to trust that I have tribe, right? That reptilian part of the brain knows that being alone, being in isolation, means instant death. So if you're coming from a disorganized or an avoidant or an ambivalent or an anxious attachment, so it doesn't matter what type of attachment style you have, you're either going to worry that people are going to leave you, that people can't be trusted to have your back, or disorganized, that you feel like, you have to do everything yourself because nobody can do it like you do it. And that all you A-type perfectionists out there. It's no wonder that we create the very thing that we destroy, actually, the very thing that we want, which is connection, because our stories tell us people can't be trusted. They don't do what they say they're going to do. And then we kind of turn it in on ourselves that, how can I trust other people to do what they say they're going to do if I don't trust that I'm going to do what I'm going to do? And it's just a big downward spiral. So look at what your beliefs are and get curious about what age you were when you first formed that belief, because you already know what you truly believe, and you know whether or not you really need to be doing those things and why you're not doing them, or if you actually just don't want to do these things. A lot of times we do things because we're afraid that again, going back to that basic neurobiology of being human, that people are going to leave us. So we adopt. This is the people pleasing. This is the giving ourselves up, which is why a lot of people, when they sort of reach middle age, they don't even know what they want anymore, because their whole lives they've been showing up and being the person that the people that they need, that maybe didn't even create them any safety for them, but they were afraid they were going to be abandoned or rejected or cast out or exiled, wanted them to behave a certain way. So really, really look at that, because there's nothing else to really, there's nothing to fix here. There's nothing to figure out. There's just a beautiful opening of hope for you to hold space, to get curious about why up until now you haven't been able to complete things. So, take a breath, because right here, right now, you are able to do what you're able to do, what you want to do, as well as you can do it with the resources and the tools and the wisdom and the insights and the lessons that you've learned up until now. So all that matters is that you commit and you do the best you can. There's no room for trying here, because try is another one of those words that is really telling us that on a nervous system level of attachment, we don't feel safe enough to even begin. So all you entrepreneurs out there that are waiting to get it right, waiting to get it perfect, waiting to lose the last 10 kilograms before you go and put yourself on a dating site, just know that that's just a fear that's hardwired into your nervous system to say, rather do nothing because it's safer here than going into the unknown, where there is a possibility that you might be rejected or abandoned or shamed or ridiculed or made wrong for asking for what you want. It's just your mind. It's just your nervous system. So quickly, here are my 6 ways to kind of tie that up in a beautiful big present for you. Is number 1, you need to stay present. You need to stay present and get really honest about what is it that you really want to change. And then you have to commit to that with your whole heart and with a whole full-bodied hell yes. You have to give yourself permission to want it. That's the first step in any change process. And what I teach my private clients in my mindfulness change process is you have to really want to change, not do it for somebody else, right? This is why drug addicts, any kind of addiction, a lot of these 12-step programs don't work, because the person shows up for fear of upsetting or hurting or let's just leave it at that. The people that actually want them to heal from the addiction, they're not doing it for themselves. And listen, we're addicted to so many things. It's another way that it's a coping mechanism, right? We numb down by watching Netflix all night long till 4 o'clock in the morning. I've certainly done that on occasions when I've been putting off what I know I need to do. Maybe you can relate to that. It's overeating. It's working too much. It's all the isms that are out there. So you need to commit and acknowledge that you really, really want to change this thing, and you're doing it for yourself, not for anybody else. And, my personal experience is that if I don't really want to change something, or I really want to change something, but because I have this disorganized attachment style, in the past, I used to wait until the 11th hour. I put myself through so much suffering and so much agony because I knew this thing was coming closer and closer and closer. But it wasn't until I was in the real discomfort and pain of, holy crap, I've got to get this thing done. Great, as I said, if you're starting up, great to be disorganized, because you'll risk it all. But you won't, you won't let yourself have it easy, right? You'll put yourself into that suffering state so they can prove, hey, look how brilliant I am. Even though I was disorganized and in avoidance and in procrastination, I pulled it off, right? We get that addiction to adrenaline, to cortisol pumping through our veins. Because we know fear, we know unpredictability very, very well from our childhood. So what if you didn't have to do that anymore? You know, what if you could see how you are and then set yourself up systems and structures and support to make sure that you have some accountability, which is in essence safety, to make sure you get that thing done and not have to go through the agony and the suffering of leaving it till the last minute. So, you know, commit to change and do the training, get the support in place. The second part of this is the trust aspect, which again, when I asked in that survey and from all the thousands of people I've worked with and my own ability to heal myself, which is an ongoing process because there are levels of this, is learning how to trust yourself. First, trust that you're enough. And gosh, you know, this work is hard. Learning to trust again is hard. Remembering to trust again, because as children, we trusted that we were going to be fed, that our nappies were going to be changed, that, you know, that there was going to be someone there to pick us up when we were crying. And, you know, again, side note on this, which I'm going to go into more depth with in this free training that I'm going to be offering soon, is our parents did the best they had with what they could. And in my day, you didn't sleep with your child. You certainly didn't have that bonding and kangaroo touch of feeling your mother's heartbeat and the warmth of her skin. You know, the crazy Dr. Freud said, put your child in a cot, isolate him, put him in another room, and let them cry themselves to sleep. Well, what that really does, and we know this now, is eventually the child stops crying, right? You stop crying because you suddenly realized on a very subconscious level, nobody was coming, right? So you formed that belief that no one has your back, that nobody is there to soothe you or create safety for you. So, you know, we've learned to be like those comic book road runners that are spinning their wheels so fast because they're, you know, they if they stop, they're going to fall through the bottom of the earth. And the belief is that we don't believe there's ground underneath us. We can't be safely embodied, right? We can't be in our bodies. We can't be in the substance of the physical. That someone's going to pull the carpet from underneath us. So, you know, I'm not going to trust that I can be this happy because something bad is going to happen to take that away from you. So, you know, part of this mindfulness change process is learning to trust again, to trust yourself, to trust your body. And when you do that, then you can start to trust in others, and you can certainly start trusting in life and a divine order of things, the universal laws, that the universe has your back, that there's a safe base, and we don't have to do it all by ourselves. So if you're really good at receiving, because it's safe for you to safe to give, but you're not really good at receiving, you might want to just start setting yourself up to ask for small things. And know that one no doesn't mean that you're not worthy, that you're not being banished into exile to die on your own. It just means that maybe you're asking the wrong person, or maybe the timing is out. But to keep asking, you know, for what you want and feel how it feels to start viscerally receiving in your body. When I was traveling over the last 4 months, you know, I had a really great lesson out in the field because I had met so many beautiful, loving people, some of my clients, I made new friends, and I just at times just had tears flooding out of my eyes at the level of love that I felt in my body, like it was the first time. And sometimes it was really uncomfortable, and I could feel my inner child, the child part that didn't think it was safe to receive that much love, that much abundance, that much attention, started to have a hissy fit. So, thank goodness I have these tools that I could learn to just calm my nervous system down and look at, what? How lucky, that's when the gratitude and the appreciation comes through. And also, without going into too much detail, because I've been speaking here for a while, is when you start to look at, how it's incredibly difficult to create in a vacuum. All you entrepreneurs out there that are trying to do everything by yourself, we need safety and connection. It's one of our basic intrinsic needs. It's also our birthright. So, if you're in a space that's not loving and kind, maybe you need to put better boundaries in place. Maybe you need to let go of some of these toxic relationships, whether that's narcissism or triangulation, whatever it is. You're not going to die, okay, if those people leave. In fact, you're going to make room for what you're asking for to come through. But it is incredibly hard because that part of our reptilian brain starts screaming death, death, death if I'm alone. So for all you black sheep out there, for those that never felt like you fitted in, that you're too woo, that your family doesn't get you, I can put my hand up to all of those. It is hard to be different, right? But it's also your uniqueness, and it's where your talents and capacities to create change and make an impact in the world come from, because there's nobody else like you on the planet. So surround yourself with people that can honor and celebrate and support you when you start not believing in yourself again. This is the importance of finding your right relationships, of finding your tribe, of running with the pack that are the rebels and the black sheep and the outcasts. You just don't want to get into a place where, if you have an anxious attachment, that you're with another anxious attachment kind of person, because then you're both going to worrying about what the other one's thinking. And you create this state of inertia. So, often just know that we stay stuck. We procrastinate. We put things off. We don't take risks, right? Because our longing to be part of the whole, to fit in, is often greater than being different. You can have your truth and honor somebody else's truth, which only brings in more compassion, because you don't know what the other person's been through and they don't know what you've been through. And each party is doing the best that they can to resolve their own attachment wounds, right? To heal their unresolved trauma. So, don't be afraid of letting go of people that no longer support you or can't see you or are bringing you down all the time. Let it go, surrender, and trust that you know who you are, so that the people that you are asking to come in can come in, because you've made space for that. And I think this is where we have to, going into the fourth point of all of this, is that I want you to really understand, be the observer, the quiet observer of your history, right? This is the work we do with epigenetics. Where, if you are predisposed to getting breast cancer or diabetes because it runs in your family, only about 2% of that is possible, right? The other 98% is dependent on your external environment, on how safe you feel, on how loved and nurtured and connected you feel. So you are not your family genetics. You are not your historical culture, right? This is where maybe you haven't firsthand experienced a trauma, but if you know that your father, just think of Viktor Frankl in his book of life having meaning, and that people that held a hope and a meaning bigger than their current horrendous situation. We're the ones that survived. If you have intergenerational trauma running on your family and you're the black sheep, right, or the lone wolf or the pattern interrupter in your family, celebrate your difference, because you're the one that's bringing light to all this unresolved trauma, and you're the one that's actually going to change it for future generations. So again, go toward the what can I change and away from what can't I, right? From the victim to the truth teller, from pessimism and cynicism to the optimism, right? The hope that you are going to change that along your intergenerational line, right? Your family line gets to change, regardless of whether they acknowledge or support or even see that in their lifetime. Trust that, that even though it might be hard to shift some of these patterns, which are born in the past, frozen in time. And those of you who've worked with me on a private level or have taken the shadow dancing class or the Out of the Blues program, where we go into this in great depth, you're familiar with the idea of these little time capsules of experiences, where they're bundled moments of unfinished business, right, that are held in the past. And if you look at the liver from a Chinese medicine perspective, we see this, that the liver pushes out leptin, little balls of fat that encapsulate a perceived or real threat or pathogen in the body. And when they've done that, there's all these little balls that need to then be eliminated out of the body, right? Either through elimination of bowels or through sweat or whatever it is. And when we're not processing these because they're frozen in time, they get backed up and backed up and backed up and backed up. And the body does keep the score, right? The issues are kept in our tissues until we kind of reach a life-defining moment, or that could be a healing crisis, or, a death in the family, or in my case, knowing that I had a brain tumor in the back of my head, to start to look for ways to process and disintegrate so that we can remove all of those little bundled moments in our body and not get triggered anymore. And, embedded in those time capsules too could be hopes and dreams and longings, the death of a relationship, the death of a dream. So we need to be able to give our grief, our loss, a voice too, and express that in a very healthy somatic way as well. To really grieve and get angry if you need to. Anger is such a great catalyst for growth and movement about, not getting your needs met. We're always then in a state of movement. We're moving toward what we want. And of course, there's going to be physiological distress that comes up, maybe at the bottom of it all. Well, the worst part of change is that we have to feel in order to heal. We have to be able to see the emotional and the physical disruptions, the heartbreak, the distrust, the anxiety. We have to really have a felt sense of that, and where I love somatic breath work as a way to actually start to agitate and let the body physically release this in a healthy way, so we can calm down our nervous systems and do that rewiring, rebooting on our brains, in our minds. And, it's easier to deal with everything else than to breathe in distress, to feel pain, but learning along the way to trust that we will move through all that this moment is temporary. When we start to see trauma as a path of transformation, that even though we can't change what's happened to us, remember, trauma is never in the event, it's in how we build resilience to be able to rewrite a new story, right? What Viktor Frankl talks about in his book. And I highly recommend you read that. Another great one is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. These are all great books to start to give you a deeper understanding of how you show up in the world based on all the things that I've talked about today. But, I think that in closing, I just want to say that you have to be willing to let gratitude in, let love in, receive the good, celebrate how far you've come in overcoming so much heartache and pain and obstacles and challenges in your life that kept you safe and got you to this point where you're here listening to me speak about this, and open to receive, even if it's uncomfortable in the beginning. Just try it on. I also know that as painful and as challenging it is in every phase of integration, of healing, of wholeness, of coming back to yourself, bringing these child parts back to you, being the secure, safe, kind, compassionate adults to your child parts. It's not always easy, but it is simple if you just start to apply some of these things that I've spoken about today and get support with it. And, one thing I can guarantee for all of those brains out there that want the predictability, that want to believe that you can change, that you can live a good, beautiful life, is that yes, the pain will still be there, but you don't have to sit in the pain. And that's the beauty of this process of processing this pain in a healthy way. And like every metaphor of transformation out there, there's going to be pain and suffering too, but it's temporary. This too shall pass. So keep your eye on where you want to go, and call in the light, call in your cheerleaders, call in your energetic guides, your ancestral helping spirits that lived well and died well so that you could have this life. I always make light of the fact that a lot of you in my tribe are the ancestors of the witches, right? The homeopaths, the medicine women that didn't die at the stake. So, practice active appreciation, practice gratitude, and just allow the goodness, allow the beauty to come in. Just open to it, because transformation is possible. And I want more than anything for you to have that. So, yeah, Deborah, South Africa has very heavy karma, but we're here to change it, in our own small ways. When we sort of add up the tiny little pieces and we put that into the heart of what we want to see as the legacy of Africa, it gives me hope, even though things are pretty dire and there are millions of species of animals and insects and plants that are being destroyed, and we are on that tipping point of almost no return as far as the survival of our species because of what we're doing on this planet. We can't stay in that space. We need to pay attention and give love to it, and ask, what is possible beyond that, because in it is that construct of a lot of visible proof of how we're screwing up the planet. So stay in the light. I hope that this has been helpful and informative to you. I don't know how long I've been talking here, but it feels like I'm complete for today. And if you haven't filled in my survey, please, I'll post the link below. I love your insight on that so that I can really show up and give more of what you're asking for in healing your own attachment wounds, and in so doing healing these big karmic wounds of the human condition of suffering. And wherever you find yourself today, just trust that you're loved. And if anybody hasn't told you today, I love you. I see you and I honor you. And I really, really appreciate the part that you're playing in my life, to have eyes on me, to make sure that, you know, I stay on path to my true North Star. And I keep speaking about this topic, which is very uncomfortable, and that people would rather not hear. But you know, I know, in working with so many people and animals, and in my own life, um, the benefits of this work are truly transformational. I am my own miracle. And if I believed all those things that I'd been told and all the diagnoses that I'd been given, I wouldn't be here today, sharing what I know and what I continue to learn from nature, from my nervous system, from my own discomfort. So thank you for being with me. Be amazing and let the light in. All right, take care. I love you.